Okay, moving on to my next one. This is from Wade, and I'm just going to read it here. Okay, he says, Pastor Steve and Matt, listening to people like Chuck Missler and Dr. Hugh Ross, it appears that God exists outside of our three spatial dimensions and half dimension of time. I have also read where this corresponds to heaven being also outside of the dimensions we live in. We see visions that are difficult to translate to our dimensional systems, Ezekiel 1:5-9. That said, Revelation 21:16 provides detailed and specific dimensions of the New Jerusalem in only three dimensions. Is this description the only way it was visible to three-dimensional people? Question mark. Dr. E. Ross liked to use the example of flatland and a three-dimensional person for his explanation. And then he says this, I think that is the way we perceive the dimensions. For example, the disciples could only see resurrected Jesus in his human form, and I'm not sure how good a question it is. I am doing a guest lecture on units of measurement and conversion factors to the 5th grade class tomorrow, so we might not have caught his lecture, but I'm asking it for him anyway. I was looking at examples of measurement in the Bible, and this question came to mind when reviewing Revelation 21:16.
Okay, so Wade, first off, you're a geek.
I love how you're presenting this to your 5th grade class, though. Wade is not dropping the Bible study standard like we were talking about.
You know, Wade, one of the things, because I've listened to Hugh Ross and I love Chuck Missler too. He was a great guy, but I don't agree that heaven is outside of time. I do agree that God is. And so God's outside of spatial dimensions, and God is outside, as you said, of the half dimension of time. But there's indications that angels specifically aren't. And so if you'll remember the angel that came to Daniel after having the combat with the prince of Persia, and so in Daniel chapter 10, Daniel was mourning 3 full weeks, and when 3 whole weeks were fulfilled, now it says, now on the 24th day of the first month, I lifted my eyes, and behold, a certain man clothed in linen, whose waist was girded with gold of Uphaz. And he has a description of an angel here, and this is what the angel says to him. O Daniel, man greatly beloved, understand the words that I speak to you and stand upright, for I have now been sent to you. Then he says, do not fear, Daniel, for from the first day that you set your heart to understand and humble yourself before your God, your words were heard, and I have come because of your words. But the prince of the kingdom of Persia withstood me 21 days. And so that's the 3 weeks, right? And so the angel was delayed for 21 days by the prince of the kingdom of Persia, which is obviously an angelic being that is satanic, right? And so you have this spiritual battle that goes on for 21 days. The angel's delayed and comes to Daniel. That is a personage that is confined to time. Because if you weren't confined to time, and if heaven, when you're talking about heaven, the heaven that we have in the book of Ezekiel and the heaven that we always also have in the book of Revelation, if heaven was timeless in that sense, then all the angel would have to do is pop out of this dimension and go into the spiritual realm. And now he's timeless and figure out where he should have come in. And there's no reason for him to be late. This is the point that I'm making. He could have come back in and avoided the prince of Persia and got to Daniel on time. There's no reason for him to be late. And so that is a passage that looks like it confines this angel to the time domain. And when you're going through the book of Revelation, for example, in Revelation chapter 6, you have the souls under the altar, and they say, "How long, O Lord, holy and true?" And I'm going to give you the specific quote here. It says, verse 10 of Revelation 6, "How long, O Lord, holy and true, until you judge and avenge our blood on those who dwell on the earth. And so you have people in heaven waiting. And so if they're waiting, then they're subject to time. And as you go through the book of Revelation, it looks like even in heaven, events follow events. Now, admittedly, that could be something that's written in that way because we can't understand timelessness, but I don't see how you get past the angel in Daniel chapter 10. The other thing that you have with this is Satan is not confined to the earth either. Satan has access to heaven. And so if heaven is time, I mean, you could make the spiritual realm around earth something that's confined to time. But if you make heaven confined to time, then you have a situation where Satan is stepping out of, again, our time domain and stepping into heaven, and he would not be subject to time at that point either. And this is why that's weird. If he's not confined to time when he steps into the heavenly realm, then he could step into the earthly realm 500 years into the future and be able to step back out and step back in 500 years in the past, give a prophecy to somebody, and be completely accurate about those things. But one of the defining aspects of false prophecy is that it's false. It is either false about the nature of God or it does not come to pass. And so generally speaking, well, actually, specifically speaking, when you're talking about satanic prophecy, you are not talking about something where that guy knows the future. You're talking about a situation where Satan is telling you what he plans on doing. And that obviously can be thwarted by God or thwarted by angels. He does not know the future. He does not know the future. He's not aware of the future any more than we are. He has access to the same revelation that we do. And so that's why you have Satan making mistakes, and God has the ability to take whatever Satan does and turn it around for good, and Satan can't combat that. Again, if he had access to a timeless domain, then that would be significantly different, right? And so I don't think that heaven is confined to, or that heaven is outside of time. I think that heaven is another place that God made. And so God making it is by definition outside of it. So God is outside of the earth by definition because he made it. He's outside of the universe by definition because he made it. And he is outside of heaven by definition because he made it, right? And so the fact that God can be found on the earth or found in the universe or found in heaven, that he manifests himself here, is just an aspect of the fact that God is everywhere at the same time. So he manifests himself in different times and places in different ways, and he's able to do that. But by definition, he is outside of all these things. And so God is the one who is outside of time. God is the one who's immortal. God is the one who's outside of the universe. And I haven't found a teaching that heaven is, right? So having said all that, in Revelation 21, when you have the description of the New Jerusalem, it does, like you say, give detailed description and gives specific lengths and measures in that description. But another thing that needs to be pointed out is that the New Jerusalem is coming down out of heaven to the new heaven and the new earth. And so what we have there is a new creation, and so it looks like that is subject to time also, because events follow events. So, for example, there's a river that runs, right? And you have leaves that grow on trees, and there are months, right? And so, as you go through that description in Revelation chapter 22, there is time there. And so events follow events. And so even without talking about the timelessness of heaven, you have the New Jerusalem coming down into a realm that obviously has three dimensions and time, and so giving a dimensional layout of it would be just fine. So.
Okay, a couple things. You just said a lot. I would be lost if I didn't have a little bit of, like, if this is the first time I heard what you said, I'm like, what did he just say? And I'm not an intellect, I'm not a Missler or a He Ross.
You kind of are.
But
go ahead.
And I wrote this down before you said everything you explained, but how do they attribute his all-knowing, prophetic character without being outside the dimensionality of time from everybody else? Like you positioned Satan inside time.
Uh-huh.
If any of us were outside time, then we would have the all-knowing characteristic of God, right?
Right. Yeah.
So how do they mesh that? I mean, that's kind of a simple question from the.
I don't know if they thought of that.
Okay.
I never talked to Chuck about that.
Mm-hmm.
It was something that came up. Yeah, I just never talked to him about it. So I don't know that he considered that.
A lot of people go, well, why does Satan keep trying if he knows he's going to lose? Like if you replace all this, it's like, well, he would know, he would be outside of time, he'd be able to prophesize correctly. It would like change the whole situation.
Change the whole situation. I think he knows that he's going to lose, but he's crazy.
Yeah.
I think he's wicked crazy. So.
Okay. Secondly, if that's true, then eternity has a clock.
Yep.
And so, like you're describing,
it's called the ages of the ages.
Is that a technical term?
Yeah.
Is it?
In Greek.
Okay. So all the leaves and seasons and stuff, you're talking about time without decay.
Uh-huh.
But we're still on a clock.
Yeah, that's what it looks like.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Pretty wild, pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, I like it.